black people were kings and queens. You know what I'm saying? We could go into this reasoning in a little bit more depth, but we want to touch on the whole logical fallacy, or what they call the cum hoc ergo propter hoc. You understand? Where some say that correlation implies causation. You understand? It's a fallacy, because people conclude that because two events are said to somehow happen simultaneously, they're from the same cause. Correlation, you understand, or correlation, some would say, does not imply causation. You understand? Cum hoc ergo propter hoc. You understand? Which is a Latin phrase that is often translated to mean, well, in Latin, literally it means for with this, therefore, because of this. It's what they call the false cause theory, the logical fallacy theory. In other words, many people say, well, the Ten Commandments, Moses, the prophet Moses of the Israelites, the lawgiver of the Israelian, of our ancient ancestors, the Beta Israel. Satan has gone forward and has a lot of disciples of this deluded so-called idea or school of thought or denomination of those who seek to refute the Bible, the accuracy of the scriptures, and refute so-called the teachings of Yehoshua, the teachings of the Messiah, would say that, well, to begin with, the Bible is all stolen out of ancient Egypt, and the Ten Commandments were stolen by Moses from the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at. You understand? Which is a feminine deity or principle, which is said to mean truth or to mean justice. Now, this is very interesting right here, because if you listen to their arguments, they'll say the Ten Commandments were taken out of Egypt, out of the 42 negative confessions. Now, these 42 negative confessions, they won't really confess to you that these 42 negative confessions were things to be used after you are dead. You understand? In ancient Egypt, they were things that were inscribed, and you would allegedly say these things after you were dead when you come before the God of the dead, who was variously called Osar or Osiris in the Greek eyes and the Hellenized versions of the Egyptian mystery schools and teaching. They'll say, well, because it says here in the 42 negative confessions that I have not done this, I have not done that, then if you go to the Ten Commandments, the Ten Commandments says thou shalt not and thou shalt not. And most ignorant folk who haven't really studied this issue or studied probably any issue very deeply would say, aha, see there, that's why I don't believe in the Bible. That's why I don't believe in Yehoshua HaMashiach. That's why I don't believe in Jesus Christ or the Bible, whether he's black or white. I don't believe. It's all fairy tale and make-believe. You understand? Logical fallacy. Now, we're going to go into just a brief rebuke of this. You understand? First of all, there are more than 10 commandments. You understand? There are more than 10 commandments. There are actually 613 commandments, testimonies, statutes, you understand, and judgments. Really, commandments, statutes, and judgments in the scripture. There are 613. They break down to 365 and 248. And if you study this numerology or number system even deeper, you'll find that there's a high culture and a high science to that. You understand, which Yehoshua HaMashiach revealed to us, walked in, manifested the template for us so that we would not be caught under the strong delusion which many people are caught under and don't even recognize the seriousness of it. So explain to me, Egyptologists, if Moses allegedly stole the Ten Commandments out of the 42 negative confessions, then why does not the Ten Commandments read like the 42 negative confessions? It doesn't. You understand? In fact, when you think about it, if these are the negative confessions, why it says, I have not done this, I have not done that? Is that what you mean? Instead of thou shalt not? You see, one was for the living. You understand? The commandments was for the living, and the negative confession was for the dead. When one will go before the God of the dead, you understand, who could not come back to the land of the living. Obviously, this was not a very mighty God, or no, or really not a true God, because it could not come back to the land of the living, but was stuck in the land of the dead. And then when one would appear before the jury, which was often called the 14 assessors, I think the 12 plus the alternate jurors and everything, they would basically recite this and be able to fool whether they did these things or not in their actual life, or if they said these things because that's what the jury wanted to hear. You understand? They would basically be happy in death or something to that effect. You understand? Firstly, we're not supporting, you understand, Egyptology. You understand? Not in its present form. The only thing probably true about Egyptology, generally speaking, is that the ancient so-called Egyptians or Comitians were black people. That's probably the only thing that's true. Black people, not black people in the sense of African Americans. You understand? Not in the sense of modern day Africans, but were black people from many different tribes, many different nations and governments and kingdoms, which all came together to form this city. You understand? It's interesting in the Bible that the Bible at one point mentions Egypt as my people, that Yahweh actually says that Egypt is my people. I hear a lot of people quoting the first commandment saying that thou shalt have no other gods, no other Elohim beside me. That's actually a poor interpretation of what it actually says in the Ten Commandments. Even going from the Hebrew, it says that thou shalt have no other Elohim before me. That means that all these other Elohim, you understand, whoever they may be, you understand, must follow the true God, Yahweh Eloheinu. That we are not to have any Elohim before the true God. You understand, in front of, you understand, the true God, in the face of, you understand, the true God. So when they interpret it besides, that's a very deceptive translation. Because if you look at the Hebrew and do a Blue Letter Bible or another kind of online concordance or offline concordance study of that verse, you'll see that when it says beside me, it actually means before me. You understand? Because Yahweh is the principle of truth. You understand? Transcendence as well. You understand? The true source of metaphysical perfection. You understand? Which Yehoshua HaMoshiach, often blasphemed as Jesus Christ, perfected. So we put this challenge out to ones and ones who like to say and basically repeat this lie over and over again. And it seems like by repeating this lie over and over again that Moses stole the Ten Commandments, Moses stole the Ten Commandments, many people, without even doing any research or study on this for themselves, are believing this logical fallacy. You understand? Also known as cum hoc ergo propter hoc. You understand that somehow causation or correlation, you understand, implies causation. You understand? Because both of these so-called commandments seem similar to some. You understand? I have not done this, I have not done this, thou shalt not. But notice, when we say thou shalt not, you understand, thou shalt not, as the Ten Commandments are often summarized. You understand? This is for the living. When they say, I have not done this, I have not done that, I have not done the next thing in ancient Egypt, that was for the dead. And this is where the bondage of ancient Egypt, this is where Egypt, you understand, fell away from being God's people. You see, people look at Egypt to be flatlined, like Egypt was all one thing for all that time. Remember, fashion, basic fashion, did not change in Egypt in thousands of years. You understand? But interpretations of ideas, such as politics, religion, different tribes, you understand, different dynasties came into effect. Like right now with Barack Hussein Obama, this represents a different kind of a dynasty shift. Even though it's related to the other ones, it's a change. You understand? The same thing happened in Egypt. That's what the Bible speaks about America to be a spiritual, you understand, to be a spiritual Egypt. You understand? Because